Chapter 7. The truth lies in the consideration that the couplement subsists by virtue of the soul's presence. This, however, is not to say that the soul gives itself as it is in itself to form either the couplement or the body. No. From the organized body and something else, let us say a light which the soul gives forth from itself, it forms a distinct principle, the animate. And in this principle are vested sense perception and all the other experiences found to belong to the animate. But the we, how have we sense perception? By the fact that we are not separate from the animate so constituted, even though certainly other and nobler elements go to make up the entire many-sided nature of man. The faculty of perception in the soul cannot act by the immediate grasping of sensible objects, but only by the discerning of impressions printed upon the animate by sensation. These impressions are already intelligibles, while the outer sensation is a mere phantom of the other, of that in the soul, which is nearer to authentic existence as being an impassive reading of ideal forms. And by means of these ideal forms by which the soul wields single lordship over the animate, we have discursive reasoning, sense knowledge, and intellection. From this moment we have peculiarly the we. Before this, there was only the ours. But at this stage stands the we, the authentic human principle, loftily presiding over the animate. There is no reason why the entire compound entity should not be described as the animate or living being, mingled in a lower phase, but above that point the beginning of the veritable man, distinct from all that is kin to the lion, all that is of the order of the multiple brute. And since the man, so understood, is essentially the associate of the reasoning soul, in our reasoning it is this we that reasons, in that the use and the act of reason is a characteristic act of the soul. Chapter 8. And towards the intellectual principle, what is our relation? By this I mean not that faculty in the soul which is one of the emanations from the intellectual principle, but the intellectual principle itself. This also we possess as the summit of our being, and we have it either as common to all or as our own immediate possession. Or again, we may possess it in both degrees. That is, common since it is indivisible, one everywhere and always, its entire self, and severally in that each personality possesses it entirely in the first soul. Hence we possess the ideal forms, also after two modes, in the soul as it were unrolled and separate, and in the intellectual principle concentrated, one. And how do we possess the divinity? In that the divinity is contained in the intellectual principle and authentic existence, and we come third in the order after these two. For the we is constituted by a union of the supreme, the undivided soul, and that soul which is divided among living bodies. For note, we inevitably think of the soul, though one and undivided in the all, as being present to the bodies in division, insofar as any bodies are animates. The soul has given itself to each of the separate material masses, or rather, it appears to be present in the bodies by fact that it shines into them. It makes them living beings not by merging into the body, but by giving forth, without any change in itself, images or likenesses of itself, like one face caught in many mirrors. The first of these images is sense perception, seated in the couplement, and from this downwards all the successive images are to be recognized as phases of the soul, in lessening succession from one another, until the series ends in the faculties of generation and growth, and of all production of offspring. Offspring, efficient in its turn, in contradistinction to the engendering soul, which has no direct action within matter, but produces by mere inclination towards what it fashions. Chapter 9. That soul, then, in us will in its nature stand apart from all that can cause any of the evils which man does or suffers. For all such evil, as we have seen, belongs only to the animate, the couplement. But there is a difficulty in understanding how the soul can go guiltless if our mentation and reasoning are vested in it. For all this lower kind of knowledge is delusion, and is the cause of much of what is evil. When we have done evil, it is because we have been worsened by our baser side. For a man is many by desire or rage or some evil image, the misnamed reasoning that takes up with the false, in reality, fancy, has not stayed for the judgment of the reasoning principle. We have acted at the call of the less worthy, just as in the sense sphere we sometimes see falsely, because we credit only the lower perception, that of the couplement, without applying the tests of the reasoning faculty. The intellectual principle has held aloof from the act, and so is guiltless, or, as we may state it, all depends on whether we ourselves have or have not put ourselves in touch with the intellectual realm, either in the intellectual principle or within ourselves, for it is possible at once to possess and not to use. Thus we have marked off what belongs to the couplement from what stands by itself. The one group has the character of the body and never exists apart from the body, while all that has no need of the body for its manifestation belongs peculiarly to the soul. And the understanding, as passing judgment upon sense impressions, is at the point of the vision of ideal forms, seeing them as it were with an answering sensation, i.e., consciousness. This last is at any rate true of the understanding in the veritable soul. For the understanding, the true understanding, is an act of the intellections. In many of its manifestations, it is the assimilation and reconciliation of the outer to the inner. Thus, in spite of it all, the soul is at peace as to itself and within itself. All the changes and all the turmoil we experience are the issue of what is subjoined to the soul, and are, as has been said, the states and the experiences of this elusive couplement.